Hello, welcome to another live class. Here we are every Monday, and this is your chance to ask all the questions related to NLP, related to anxiety, related to mindset, coaching, all of this good stuff. So if there are any particular things that you want insight on, then these classes are for that. And every week I'm sharing different tips, tools, different concepts, different insights into behavior, into mindset, into anxiety, how we can reduce anxiety, into my journey with NLP, into like all these different things. And not just NLP, also I cover numerology, I also cover embodiment. So there's many things. And yes, so I love it when this becomes interactive. So feel free to add any questions, anything into the chat. And yeah, today's topic is a very important one. We're going to be talking all about the unconscious mind, all about the unconscious. And this is something that many often forget about, that we have the conscious mind and we have the unconscious mind. So you might have heard people talking about this. The very common way of talking about this is that if you imagine an iceberg, so an iceberg floating in the water, and the tip that is above the water, that is the conscious mind, and everything else that's below the water, that's the unconscious mind. Some people call it the subconscious. And it's really all of that part is everything that we're not aware of, but is there kind of filtering and influencing our experience in this life. And in the unconscious mind, we have certain filters because we're receiving information all the time. Like there's so much information. Like when we go, especially nowadays with technology, there's even more. So there's all this information coming towards us, and we receive that through our senses. We see things, we hear things, we feel things, we smell things, we taste things. So we get information that way. So it's like, oh, it's hot in here, or oh, it's cold in here, or oh, I hear a sound, or like I see something over there, or like we get information. We're constantly picking up an information through our senses. And it's almost like a post office. And all this information is coming through. All these letters are coming into the post office. And then our mind, specifically our unconscious, is the post office, and it's filtering everything. It's sorting everything out. It's sorting out all those letters into piles according to our belief system, according to our values, according to culture, language, meta programs, all these different components that make up the unconscious filters. Though the very important ones to look at are the beliefs and the values. And today I'm going to be talking about values. So this is the thing, like if we've had certain experiences in our past and we've formed certain beliefs, or we have like specific things that we value in life, then we're going to filter, our mind is going to filter everything according to that. So the mind, specifically a part of the brain that's called the reticular activating system, deletes, distorts, and generalizes information. So all those letters coming into the post office get deleted, get distorted, and get generalized according to the beliefs held by the individual and according to the values held by the individual, and also culture, language, and all of that. So if anything doesn't fit in with our belief system, like everyone has their blueprint. So I have my blueprint according to my experiences of the past. Someone else has their blueprint according to the experiences of their past. Someone else will have their blueprint. So like everyone has their own blueprint. And if anything doesn't fit in with the beliefs held or the values like held within the blueprint, those letters, those pieces of information will get deleted. We just won't notice, because it'll be so like when you had, like, for example, someone Yeah, so like someone believes very, very strongly that all people from a certain country are fill in the blank, or all men are, or all women are fill in the blank. Like they have some negative limiting belief about that. And if ever they encounter people that are the opposite, that are not according to that belief, they may just not notice. It won't even register because it goes against their belief system, it goes against their blueprint, and it's almost like this cognitive bias that they just won't even notice. They just focus on what they know and what they believe in and reaffirm their beliefs to be true. Like this is the thing, like in life sometimes it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy that we're just going through our life experience and proving to ourselves that our beliefs are true. Most of the time, unless you're aware of this and you're connected to that curious mindset and you're open to learning new things, then you're able to really look at your beliefs and your blueprint and decide, okay, yeah, perhaps there's something new here, or perhaps there's some beliefs I can change. And when we transform our beliefs, when we look at our values and really notice like what is a true value and what is an adopted value, like from someone else or from society, then we can start changing things and transforming our experience, because our blueprint is like a pair of glasses. We see life and we experience life thanks to the blueprint. And if we change the blueprint, our experience changes. Those of you who have been to my in-person workshops would have experienced the clock exercise. I'm sure many of you have. If you haven't, I'll very quickly do it now. So imagine that above you, there's a clock on the ceiling, and this clock has all of the numbers. It has the hands to show the hour, the time, and it also has a second hand. And the second hand is moving around clockwise. And what I'd like you to do is to point your finger up at that clock. If you're okay to do this, if you're driving or not in a position to do this, then of course don't. But if you're in a position to do this, point up at that clock, and trace your finger round clockwise, round clockwise. So your finger's moving round clockwise as you're tracing that second hand. So it's like you're following the second hand as it goes round clockwise. And as you do that, lower down your arm. So the movement's still the same, but you're just lowering down your arm so that you can then look down on your hand and your finger. And notice which direction your finger's moving in now. Notice which direction. Most people will notice a change. So if you want to repeat that, as most people get a little bit like, oh, what just happened? Something shifted. Try that again. So going around clockwise, and then notice which direction it's moving in now. What happened? So according to how we're looking at our hand, so I'm looking at my hand from this direction, this perspective, and I'm experiencing it as going round clockwise. When I look down on my hand and I'm experiencing it from this perspective, I suddenly notice that it's a different direction. Like I'm experiencing it different because I'm looking at it from a different place. This is the thing, like when we shift the perspective, when we look at things differently, our experience changes. So this is just a very simple way to show that, yes, okay, like when we see things from a different perspective, when we really get to the core values rather than looking at the superficial ones or the ones that we think we value, but deep down there are other values, then our experience changes and things start to shift and we get to that more authentic core. So yeah, I just mentioned all of this as like a groundwork, a framework, because this is the very basis of NLP, the very basis of many therapies and practices out there, the very basis of understanding like how we experience our reality, like how we influence our experience in life. And if we notice that we influence it, and we can shift things according to how we see things, or according to what level we're looking at things at, then we become a lot more empowered, and we realize that actually we're not victims of life experiences. And of course, I'm talking in general terms. I'm not talking about any like really full-on experiences that some people are experiencing in the world today, though generally speaking, that we have a lot more influence over our life experience than we think. And just by paying attention to what those unconscious filters are those beliefs and those values, that we can start to get curious and really notice like how we can start creating shifts in our life. So I've talked a lot about beliefs in other talks, and I'll probably do some more. Though in this one, I want to talk about values, because I was talking about, I posted a few posts on this a while back, and I was talking about it again with a friend recently. And I was saying that if we want to really truly know our values, we need to look at our behavior. Because often, like when people say, oh, what do you value in life? Or like if you, like for example, you go on a date and you share like, oh, what do you value in life? What's important for you? Often people share values from the conscious mind. Often people share values from what they want them to be, or what they think consciously their values are, or what they'd like them to be. Like they share their values according to who they would like to be. And if people were really, really honest with themselves, there would be a few differences there for some people when they really look at their behavior and really look at those deeper core values. So in order to know what our deeper core values are, we just need to observe our behavior. What are we doing on a daily basis? Like, what are we prioritizing? Like, how do we go about things? How do we navigate conflict? How do we go about work? Like any habits that we have, all of this, like how we go about things and the behavior and the tendencies that we have, the characteristic traits and things that we do, give little clues into what our values truly are. So we might think that we value one thing, but then perhaps there's something else that we're actually prioritizing a lot more in life, and that's actually something that the unconscious mind is valuing a lot more. And a lot of these are tied up with the 6 basic human needs. So we all have human basic needs. There are many different hierarchies out there. The one I use is the one that is very commonly used by Tony Robbins. Love him or hate him, the 6 basic human needs are very useful. There are other hierarchies out there, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's many different ones. The 6 basic human needs that I've covered in other classes, but I'll recap them just quickly now if you haven't heard those. So we got significance, we got love and belonging, we got perceived certainty, so that sense of safety, security, perceived certainty. And I say perceived because really in life, not much is 100% certain. Life is constantly changing, but what we perceive to be certain, that helps us to feel that sense of safety. Uncertainty, so the opposite, variety, uncertainty, growth, and contribution. So those are 6 basic human needs, and often a lot of our values are tied in with that. So virtually every single being wants to feel love and belonging at some level, or they want to feel safe at some level. And then there can be variations in that. So maybe some people, and it's almost like the values are like different categories or different flavors of these core needs. So some people like, I mean, I talk about it generally, but obviously like every single person's different. Every blueprint is different. It really varies on the individual and like who you are, what you've experienced, and like how you go about life and your behavior and your actions and things. Like everyone's different, so it's quite difficult to generally talk about this. Though you can just with curiosity, like just getting curious and being like, okay, yeah, how do I spend most of my life? Like, what am I doing day to day? Yes, going to work, or like doing some kind of activity, or looking after the kids, or but what is it about that? Like, what's driving that? What's the underneath drive? Like, what are you valuing in that? And any behavior, anything that we do has this unconscious drive, has this drive. So even like habits that perhaps we don't want, like if someone's smoking and they want to give up smoking, yet something is driving that behavior, the part of them that wants to smoke, something's driving that, and there's something that a value that they're getting through smoking. And I've worked with quite a few smokers over the years, and often it's like a common one is really like coming to like this sense of calm and relaxation, and having a chance to just like unwind and reduce stress, reduce anxiety. And that's the way that they learn how to do that, through smoking. So it helps them to relax. So relaxation is something that the unconscious mind values at some level. So it carries out that behavior in order to connect to that relaxation. So by knowing the unconscious drive, that's really interesting, because then we can be like, okay, so how can we fill up that cup of relaxation in a way that fulfills that same need, that same drive, without the cigarettes? Scrolling on the phone, like if you're there on your phone and you're scrolling on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or whatever you use, and you're there scrolling, not only are the apps designed to be very addictive, like they know like those companies, they know human psychology, they know how to make it addictive, though there's something driving that behavior. What do you get out of it? What do you get out of scrolling? Does it bring relaxation? Does it bring a sense of, like, are you learning growth? Are you like learning different things? Do you feel a sense of connection or belonging? Like often this is like the more needs that something fulfills, the more addictive it becomes. So social media does, on a superficial level, fulfills many needs in terms of that. Obviously it's a superficial level, but in that is that instant sense of connection, even though it's not the deepest connection, or this instant sense of learning and growing, even though it's not at the deepest level. So yeah, there are many things we can say about social media. Though it's just about getting curious, like what am I doing? What's driving that behavior? Like what's really underneath that? Like what do I get out of doing all these things in my daily life? And where am I spending most of my life? Of course, like if we have jobs, then we do spend a lot of time at work. Though there's like, how do we prioritize things? Look at how we spend money. But this is another one. I've heard many excuses over the years of clients or potential clients that want to create a change. They have something that they're struggling with, and yet excuses come up. And often money is the one that is the excuse of money comes up. And I say excuse because often it's not really the case, because then I'll see them go on holiday like a couple of weeks later, or I'll see them like go out for drinks or meals, and it's nothing wrong with that. Of course, enjoy life. That's all wonderful for well-being as well. Though it's just noticing like how, like what are we prioritizing? What are we prioritizing? Because If we say our value is health and well-being, yet we're using more of our money to buy new clothes than to actually spend on therapies or things or activities that help with health and well-being at a deeper level, then yeah, then perhaps health and well-being is not one of our top values. Perhaps there's something else. Perhaps like getting the clothes. I mean, it really depends on the individual. Like some people might buy new clothes. I mean, of course, it can bring a sense of well-being if you feel good about yourself. Though I'm talking about the deeper level. And maybe one of the higher values is about feeling loved and accepted, like how people perceive you. Or perhaps it's something else. It's interesting to know. Like, where do we spend our money? Like, what are we prioritizing? What does that say about our values in life? Do we value comfort over how things look, or do we value how things look over comfort? So there's many different layers to this, though you can get curious, and I love to hear in the comments section, like, what do you notice as you reflect on yourself and think about, okay, yeah, how do I spend my money? Like, what is my behavior and what am I prioritizing in life? What does that say about my values in life? My true values, not the values that I think I have, or not the values that my ego wants to have, but the true values, what we're actually prioritizing and what we're actually putting into action in life, what our behavior is showing. This gives an indication into what's happening within the unconscious mind. And if we're only paying attention to what's in the conscious mind, so that tip of the iceberg that's above the water, if we're only paying attention to that and ignoring all the rest, then that's when we're living out of an alignment. That's when we're not living really from that true, authentic core within. That's when there's lots of talk, blah, 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 but we're not actually walking the walk. And there's a misalignment there. So this is why, like, to really truly understand ourselves, we need to get to the unconscious mind. We can't just talk about it consciously. We can't just have, this is why I love NLP, because it brings in the unconscious mind. Like working with NLP and hypnosis, like we get to dive in a little bit deeper compared to if we were only doing coaching conversationally, or if you're only doing some traditional forms of therapy that don't dive into the body or don't dive into those deeper aspects and just analyzing things from a very analytical, logical way. It misses like the full picture of who you are and why you do what you do. So in terms of anxiety, because this is something that I work on a lot with people. So if we're looking at our values with anxiety, if someone experiences anxiety, we can get curious and be like, okay, like what is driving that behavior? Like there's many different things. If you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that I'm posting quite regularly. Like there's many things that contribute to anxiety. So in terms of values, it can get quite interesting. It's like, okay, are one of my values, like is there some conflict between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind? Is there some conflict there, like different values in conflict with each other, that then can sometimes produce anxiety because we feel something's out of alignment, and then all these feelings of anxiety come up. This happens a lot when people are goal setting. Like they set goals and they work towards something, and they work towards something that is not in alignment with another value that they hold. So they're setting one thing consciously, and then unconsciously, their unconscious mind is saying something else. And then this yo-yo self-sabotaging behavior comes up, and anxiety can arise from that. Or sometimes like one of the values or one of the needs of feeling safe is, obviously, because like life is changing a lot, and it's like this perceived sense of safety, like what feels safe, because things are changing all the time. Though what is perceived as safe, if that's not being fulfilled and something's in conflict with that, or we're in a situation that doesn't bring that, then anxiety can arise. So it's about getting curious, like who are we? Why do we do what we do? Like what's behind all of this? It gets really interesting. So this is something I explore a lot more in one-on-one sessions. So if you're keen to explore this further, you can just get in contact, info@emmabradford.net, or you can message me on Instagram. There are many different ways you can get hold of me: email, Instagram, message on YouTube. I check all the messages. So yeah, it's about really getting curious, like what's my blueprint? What's my blueprint? Why do I do what I do? And then with that information, not just the surface level, but the full picture, we can reduce anxiety a lot easier. We know ourselves a lot deeper and with so much more insight into who we are. So therefore, we improve our relationships. Therefore, we go through life in a very different way compared to if we're only going through life from this surface level of who we think we are. And it gets even more interesting when we bring numerology into the picture as well, which I also do. And that brings in the soul as well, the soul plan. So that's fascinating, like all of that, like creating this big blueprint. It's really interesting, and this can be a wonderful way to really connect with calm, confidence, and clarity. And this is what I do. So 3 sessions: calm, confidence, clarity, and then you come away feeling like, yes, I know myself a lot more. And then by knowing yourself a lot more, then you're a lot quicker to identify like who's in alignment and who isn't. Like if you're dating, then you're not kind of just being swept up in some love bombing experience or going along with what other people do or say, or like people pleasing, all of that. No, you have much more clarity on who you are and what's important for you, and you can say yes or no according to that. So that's one-on-one sessions if you're interested. And then also in person this week, this Thursday, the 20th of June, there's a women's circle in Barcelona, so in person. And this is going to be all about wild woman wisdom. So we're rewriting the story with the good girl syndrome. the good girl, like this is something that's so important for women because so many girls have grown up adopting that in order to feel love, like sense of love and belonging and acceptance. It's like, oh, be the quiet good girl. Like this is very common. And then as adults, many women, I'm sure if there are women watching today, like I'm sure at least one of you at some point has heard phrases like, oh, you're too sensitive, you're being overly sensitive, or it must be that time of the month, or you're like, whenever you express emotion. And what happens is that in order to feel a sense of love and belonging and acceptance, that we tend to dim everything down and we quieten everything down, and we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to express too much. We don't want to be too much. And that's when we diminish the light of the wild woman. And the wild woman archetype, like the wild woman, like that sacred rage, that passion, that wildness within is such an essential part of femininity. And it's so important. And it's beautiful. It's messy and it's beautiful. And when we step into that fully as women, when we truly embrace that, wow, we become so radiant. We become so like we're truly living from the fullness, not just a part of us. So we're going to explore that a little bit. Obviously, it's just a little taster, because like in a couple of hours we can't do lots and lots and lots, but it'll be like a really wonderful introduction into this, and really hearing shares from other women. And we're going to do some NLP hypnosis guided visualization to really create harmony within the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, to start rewriting that good girl story. And we'll learn some embodiment techniques that can really help soothe the nervous system and help us whenever anger arises, and help us to step into our power. So that's this Thursday. There's a link in the description with all the details. And then the following week on the 28th, Friday the 28th, in Villeneuve-Geltrú, I have a dance session, which is blending movement with numerology. So it's really exploring all of the numbers through movement, through the body. And that's a really fascinating, wonderful way to really uncover those deeper layers of who we are and why we're here. So all the details are in the description. And as I mentioned before, the one-on-one sessions are also going as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful week. I'd love to hear if there are any specific topics you want me to cover over the next few weeks. That would be wonderful to hear. And I send you so much love. I wish you a wonderful week.